Today we're going to be talking about volume, and you'll notice that it says volume part 1 because yes, there will be a part 2 in the next lesson. But this first lesson, what we're going to do is kind of explain what volume is versus capacity, and then we're going to take a look at how could we possibly figure out the volume of a particular shape, and then in the next lesson there might, hint hint, be a formula for volume. So let's take a look at the actual definition. Volume, how much space the object takes up or how much it will hold. A lot of times if your parents or someone in your family have gone shopping for appliances for your kitchen maybe, they're going to look at the volume or the capacity as we get to that, that item will hold. Okay, so usually when we look at volume, we're measuring in cubic units. And if you will remember, we measured what other item in cubic units? That would be perimeter? No. Area? Yes. We also measured that one in cubic units. So I gave you an example of a freezer or refrigerator. They might say the volume is so many cubic feet. So that's what they're talking about, is how much it will hold. So when we look at capacity, we've talked about capacity in science before. Remember, we tried to fill cups to capacity, so that meant all the way to the very, very top. So that usually refers to a liquid or a solid that could be poured, and we're usually measuring that in some kind of liquid unit like quarts, pints, cups, fluid ounces, liters, or milliliters. Okay, so that takes care of vocabulary. Now, what you're going to be doing in class with this lesson is you're actually going to be constructing some cubes and some different shapes, and you're going to use those cubes to find the volume of a rectangular prism. So I've got a picture here. Of course, it's not the best because I don't have grid paper that's as big as my dry erase board, but I did the best that I could. So if you pretend that this is grid paper in the black section, and what I've done is I took a blue marker and I drew a rectangle, but I made that something that's called a net. And not the kind of net that you're going to catch something in, but a net that would look something like this. Sometimes they look different than that, and I'll get that a little bit closer if you can't see it. But basically what happens with a net is you cut out around the dark areas here, and you'll notice this has, and you may or may not see it, but it has some dotted lines, and what you normally do is you fold on those dotted lines and it's going to construct a three-dimensional shape. So for example, this is a net for a cube. So once I cut that out, fold it, and I glued it together, it made a cube. Pretty cool, right? But what we want to talk about specifically today is a rectangular prism. And as you can see, this is shaped like a rectangle, squares on the ends. And this is what that would kind of look like on grid paper. So I've got 4 centimeters as my length and 3 centimeters as my width. And what you would do is you would cut this out on the outside here, and then you would fold on these lines and eventually make a rectangular prism. So your job in class is to figure out how can I find the volume of a rectangular prism, okay? So what you're going to be using are the little centimeter cubes that we have in class, and I want you to think about, if I could fill this with centimeter cubes, how do I figure out the volume? So I want you to think about that. That's one thing I want you to be thinking about when you come to class. And this is going to be a problem-solving activity. So you'll actually make a rectangular prism, and you'll have to try to figure out, how do I find the volume of this rectangular prism? So I'll give you a hint. Filling the bottom of it and figuring out how many layers it's going to take might help. So, again, you're going to be using some nets, you're going to make some different three-dimensional shapes, and you're going to try to find the volume of those shapes. So, let's review once again. Volume is how much space the object takes up or how much it will hold. So that's you're going to try to figure out. That's your challenge for class. Okay? So hopefully that will give you some incentive to start thinking about what you're going to be doing or how you're going to do it when you get to school. And I will see you then. Bye.